So with E3 come and gone and Cyberpunk still no closer to being released, I felt it was my duty to make this video for all of you Cyberpunk-starved people out there who are looking for something to sink their teeth into. But in the course of recording footage for this, my mindset sort of shifted. See, I was originally going to call this video, "Why isn't anyone talking about Remember Me?" But that would require making a really solid and strong argument, which I simply didn't have. Instead, I want to talk about how this game does something special and deserves recognition as a game that takes the cyberpunk concept and does something very interesting with it. This isn't a review per se, more of an argument as to why you should play this. Even more so now in a time when cyberpunk is so in, whether it be on TV, in tabletop form, or video game form, the genre is facing a resurgence, and Dontnod's first foray into gaming is in danger of being forgotten. Well, not if I have anything to say about it. This is why you should play Remember Me. To answer that, let's first look at cyberpunk as a genre. What do you think when you hear the word cyberpunk? It probably evokes images of a neon-colored dystopia, where the people are reduced to cattle and placated by the advances of technology. A not-so-distant future, where giant, faceless corporations exploit the average Joe mercilessly, bleeding him for every ounce of profit they can get. Well, on that front, Remember Me does things a little bit differently. Emphasis on the word little. It doesn't really break any new ground, but it subverts genre tropes just enough to remain interesting throughout. That's not just in terms of the story, which follows Nilin, an amnesiac memory hunter. That's a person who uses a cool glove to commit brain suck for big profits, in her efforts to regain her lost memories. It's also evident in the general aesthetic of the game. Yes, it does darken neon-y and rainy and all that stuff, but it also features vibrant daytime sections, full of people and tiny details that flesh out the world in a fantastic way. And that's an area in which the game truly shines. It's world building. Remember Me is fully committed to making Neo Paris an interesting setting. That goes beyond the gorgeous environments and vistas, of which there are many, as you can see. Very, very many. What I truly appreciate in this game is the lengths it goes to flesh out the world in cool and interesting ways. For example, the in-game codex, aka the database of in-game information which gives you more insight into the world itself. In any other game, it would be a massive database of entries that feels disjointed and disconnected from the game itself. The database part of that holds true, but the entries feel like an essential part of the narrative. Maybe it's the little stats up in the corner that show how many people do and do not remember the event in question happening. People can choose to forget significant historic events. How dystopian is that? Additionally, the articles are written in different styles, suggesting different authors and bias. And with that, a tinge of unreliability, which adds a lot to making the world feel like an actual lived-in place. The best world building happens naturally through gameplay. There's a standard fare of small conversations among bystanders, that's all well and good, but there's also the unique, cool, alternate reality pop-ups that you see throughout the game thanks to your direct neural interface, or DNI, that Nilin has implanted in the back of her head. And my personal favorite, gameplay concepts that synergize extremely well with the lore. These include Remembrains, a way to see someone else's memories in real time and use them to avoid drones, mines, open locks, etc. There's also enemies that manipulate your implants to make themselves functionally invisible. They're not just outright invisible, the game gives you an actual, in-world reason as to why they are. They shouldn't have gone to those lengths, but they did, and that's awesome. Speaking of gameplay, however, that is a divisive topic, at least when it comes to this game. Apart from some light platforming and some puzzle solving, you're going to spend the majority of your time in combat. The game is serviceable enough, at least in its attempts to ape the Batman games. However, it does have a unique feature. The uniqueness of the combat comes from the ability to change the effects of each move in a combo. While there are only 4 combos, there are a ton of enemies and special moves that keep the combat varied and fun. And as an added bonus, the better you do, the more the soundtrack picks up. Which is nice. All in all, you're exploring a super interesting world and mowing through enemies by the dozen in a fun and interesting way. Nothing too groundbreaking, but enough to keep you engaged throughout. But of course, combat is only one pillar of a game. The other, arguably more important one, is storytelling. Remember Me's story isn't much to write home about. Its narrative is interesting enough, but doesn't do much out of the ordinary to truly distinguish itself, save for maybe the main character struggling with her morality. Having lost her memories, Nilin rightly questions whether she is comfortable doing the things that she's asked to do. She doesn't outright refuse to do heinous acts, because she doesn't have the context to classify them as such. Put simply, the loss of her memory has made Nilin literally amoral, and her struggle with that as she slowly regains her memories throughout the course of the game is a very interesting subject to broach. Point is, the game is richer in memorable moments, more so than a memorable overall story. I'll give you an example. The first boss is a dude you have to fight live on stream, which is the most 2018 thing I can think of. And this came out in 2013! And while I admit that the third act can be a slog, the final boss more than makes up for it, in both setup and execution. But I won't spoil it. You really have to play it for yourself. Now, we can't talk about the storytelling if we don't focus on the main gimmick of the game, going into someone's mind and remixing their memories. It's used sparsely throughout the course of the game, and it's interesting enough, although some sequences lack depth. I don't want to go into greater detail on this topic, lest I spoil the game for you, but suffice it to say you'll be more impressed with other aspects of the game than the main gimmick they showed off in trailers. None of that will matter though, at least once I tell you the main selling point of this game. Are you ready? Are you sure? It's around 7 hours long, on normal difficulty, which is how you should be playing it anyway. You will barely notice the slog of a third act, because the game ends before it truly becomes boring. In an age where developers are forced or willingly cram games full of pointless side quests and collectibles to extend their playtime, Remember Me is a breath of fresh air. So if you're at all interested in this forgotten gem of the cyberpunk genre, you can pick it up for next to nothing. And the 2 afternoons it will take you to complete it are totally worth it. And here we are at the end of the video. I have no idea how I managed to make even my video essay short and concise, but there it is. I'm super interested in making more videos like this, by the way. There are a ton of games that came out in the recent past that I feel like didn't get the spotlight they deserved. And I've played most of them because I'm a weirdo. So if that sounds like something that you'd be willing to spend your time on, please don't hesitate to subscribe. If you like this video and played Remember Me, or hell, if you even just like this video, share it with people who you think might like the game. And if this video isn't your speed, I upload other short form quote-unquote comedy videos on my channel, mostly having to do with me or sometimes my idiot friends playing some weird obscure mid-2000s garbage game. I assure you it's time well spent, and as a bonus, they're all under 10 minutes long, mostly. So shilling is over. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.